Her parents labeled me a downgrade. She chose her ex over me for her sister's wedding. I didn't argue. I just said, understood. That one word cost her everything. Her marriage, her family's empire, and a secret she never expected me to find. My name is Declan Perry. I'm 39 years old. Until a month ago, I thought I knew my life. I work in cybersecurity, freelance consulting for companies that need their networks protected from people who want to break in. I'm good at it, good enough to live comfortably in Seattle with my wife Vanessa and our 6-year-old son, Miles. At least, I thought he was our son. The conversation happened on a Thursday evening, October, rain tapping against the kitchen windows. I was cooking dinner when Vanessa walked in with that look on her face, the one that said she'd already decided something and was just informing me. I'd seen it before, when she picked our house, when she enrolled Miles in private school, when she planned vacations I didn't know about until the tickets were booked. Declan, we need to talk about Brooke's wedding. Brooke, her younger sister, 26 years old, marrying some real estate developer her father approved of. The wedding was in Napa Valley, 3 weeks away. I set down the spatula. Sure, what time should we leave? I can clear my Friday if we need to drive early. She didn't look at me, just stood there, fingers tapping against the counter. I think it's better if I go alone this time. The kitchen went quiet, just the sound of something simmering on the stove. I waited. Silence is useful. Let people fill it, and they'll tell you more than they planned. My parents, she exhaled, they have certain expectations. Preston is going to be there. He's been working with my dad for years now, chief operations officer, and you know how they feel about how things could have been different. If you'd married Preston Holt instead of me, I finished for her. Her jaw tightened. That's not exactly what I said. It's what you meant. She finally met my eyes, something defensive in them, something that looked almost like relief that we were finally having this conversation. They think you're a downgrade, Declan, from Preston. I know it's not fair. I know it sounds terrible, but it's Brooke's Day. Can't we just avoid the drama? Downgrade. The word hung in the air between us. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of building a life together, 8 years of raising a son, paying bills, showing up every single day. And I was a downgrade. I picked up the spatula again, stirred the sauce slowly, set it down on the counter with a soft click. Understood. She blinked. That's it? You're not going to argue? Would arguing change anything? Would it make your parents suddenly respect me? Would it make you stand up for your husband? Silence. I guess not, she whispered. I nodded once. Then we're clear. You'll go to the wedding. I'll stay home with Miles. Relief washed across her face, and something else I couldn't quite name. Satisfaction, maybe, that I was being so reasonable. Thank you for understanding, she said. I knew you'd be mature about this. She kissed my cheek, quick, obligatory, the kind of kiss you give someone you're required to acknowledge but don't particularly want to touch. Then she went upstairs to pack. I stood in that kitchen for a long time, listening to her footsteps above me, the sound of drawers opening and closing, the hum of her voice on the phone, probably telling her mother the good news. That's when I made my decision. See, here's the thing about being called a downgrade. It clarifies everything. 8 years, I told myself I was building something with this woman, a partnership, a family, a future. But partnerships don't rank their partners. Families don't exclude people to avoid discomfort. I walked into my home office, locked the door, opened my laptop, created a new document. Exit Protocol, Declan Perry. The cursor blinked on the screen, waiting. I had exactly 21 days until that wedding, 21 days to uncover what I'd been blind to, 21 days to prepare an exit so complete there would be no coming back. I started typing. The first call I made was to an attorney, not the family lawyer Vanessa and I used for wills and property documents. Someone else, someone I'd met 3 years ago at a cybersecurity conference. His name was Griffin Lawson. He specialized in asset protection and complicated divorces. We'd kept in touch, grabbed drinks occasionally when our paths crossed. "Declan?" he answered on the second ring. "What's going on?" "I need to meet. Today, if possible. Can't discuss it over the phone." Pause. Griffin was smart enough to hear what I wasn't saying. "My office, 2 o'clock. I'll be there." I spent the morning acting normal, answered work emails, joined a video call about a new security contract, made breakfast for Miles, watched him eat his cereal while talking about some video game his friends were playing. He had Vanessa's eyes, her smile. I used to think that was a blessing. Now I wasn't sure what to think. At noon, I told Vanessa I had a client meeting downtown. She barely looked up from her laptop. "Okay, I'm picking up Miles from school. We'll probably get ice cream." "Sounds good," I said. I meant it. Whatever was coming, Miles didn't deserve to be caught in the middle. Not yet. Griffin's office was in a renovated building near the waterfront. Modern, glass walls. The kind of place that charged serious rates because they delivered serious results. He met me in a conference room with coffee and a legal pad. "Talk to me." I told him everything. The wedding, the downgrade comment, 8 years of marriage, Miles. "You want a divorce?" Not a question. "I want to be ready. I want to know my options, and I want to protect myself." Griffin nodded slowly, made notes. "Smart. First question, do you have any evidence of infidelity?" "Not yet, but I have suspicions." "Then we need evidence. Washington is a no-fault state, but infidelity still matters for property division and custody. You need proof before you file anything." "How do I get that?" He looked up from his notes. "How tech-savvy are you?" I almost laughed. "Very." "Good. Here's what you do." He outlined a plan. Security cameras in the house, legal as long as they weren't in bathrooms or bedrooms, software to monitor shared devices, financial audits of joint accounts, paper trails, documentation. "I can install cameras this weekend," I said. "Vanessa's taking Miles to her parents' place Saturday. Something about dress fittings for Brooke's wedding. I'll have the house to myself." "Perfect." Griffin leaned forward. "But Declan, once you start this, there's no going back. You need to be certain." I thought about Vanessa's face when I'd agreed not to come to the wedding. The relief, the satisfaction. The way she'd kissed my cheek like I was a stranger. "I'm certain." "Then let's get to work." I left his office with a list of tasks and a timeline. 3 weeks until the wedding. 3 weeks to gather evidence, secure my assets, and prepare for the exit. That evening, I ordered 3 small security cameras online. Discrete models, motion-activated, cloud storage backup. They'd arrive by Friday. By Saturday night, they'd be installed and running. Vanessa noticed nothing. We ate dinner as a family. Miles talked about his day at school, some project about ocean animals. Vanessa scrolled through wedding photos on her phone showing me bridesmaids' dresses and flower arrangements. "Brooke's going with white peonies," she said. "Classic choice." "Beautiful," I replied. She smiled at me like everything was normal. After dinner, I put Miles to bed, read him 2 chapters from his favorite book about astronauts, kissed his forehead. "Love you, Dad," he mumbled, half asleep already. "Love you too, buddy." I went back downstairs. Vanessa was on the couch with her phone. "Heading to bed early," I said. "Long day tomorrow." "Okay, I'll be up soon." I went upstairs, closed the bedroom door, opened my laptop, started a spreadsheet. Assets, liabilities, accounts, properties, everything we owned together, everything that would need to be divided. But there was something else I needed to check first, something I'd been avoiding for 6 years. I opened a new browser tab, searched for DNA testing services. The cursor blinked. I clicked. The package arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Plain brown envelope, no logos, no indication of what was inside, just a return address from a private laboratory 2 towns over, the kind of place that processes results fast if you pay extra. I'd collected the samples 3 days ago. Hair from Miles' brush, saliva from his juice cup, my own cheek swab. Standard paternity test.
The kind of thing a man does when he starts noticing his 6-year-old son doesn't share a single physical feature with him, when he remembers his wife's close friendship with Preston Holt 7 years ago, right around the time Miles was conceived. I sat at my desk, stared at the envelope for 10 minutes. Then I tore it open. The first page was technical language, genetic markers, allele frequencies, probability calculations. I skipped to the conclusion section. Printed in bold letters at the bottom. Probability of paternity, 0%. Conclusion: Declan Perry is excluded as the biological father of Miles Perry. 0%. I read it again. 0. 6 years. 6 years of bedtime stories, teaching him to ride a bike, helping with homework, coaching his little league team, holding him when he was scared of thunderstorms, being the first person he called for when he woke up from nightmares. 6 years of being dad, and none of it was real. Not biologically, anyway. I set the report down carefully, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, drank it, poured another. My hands were steady, eerily steady. The anger came later, not hot rage, something colder, the kind of fury that clears your mind instead of clouding it. Vanessa had lied for 6 years, let me raise another man's child, let me love a boy who wasn't mine by blood, let me believe we'd created something together, all while knowing the truth. And Preston Holt, the golden boy, the one her parents always wanted, chief operations officer at Thornton Holdings. He was Miles's father. Had to be. The timing matched perfectly. I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app, started documenting. Dates, timeline, the business trip Vanessa took with her father 7 years ago. Preston had been there. I remembered because Vanessa came home acting strange, distant, wouldn't meet my eyes for days. 2 weeks later, she told me she was pregnant. We'd been trying for over a year. I was thrilled, thought it was finally happening, thought we were finally becoming a real family. If you've ever wondered whether the life you're living is built on truth or comfortable lies, stay close. Sometimes the people who subscribe to awareness are the ones who escape before it's too late. I sealed the DNA report back in its envelope, locked it in my desk drawer, made 3 backup copies in separate cloud accounts. Then I added a new section to my exit protocol document. Paternity fraud, documented. The cameras were installed now, recording everything. When Vanessa was home alone, when she thought no one was watching, I would see the truth. But I already knew enough. My marriage was a fraud, my son wasn't mine, and the family that called me a downgrade had been using me for 6 years while laughing behind my back. I had 16 days until the wedding, 16 days to finish what I'd started. I closed the laptop, went upstairs, climbed into bed next to Vanessa. She was already asleep, breathing softly, looking peaceful, looking like a woman without secrets. I stared at the ceiling until morning.
The next several days moved slowly. Every hour felt like holding my breath underwater. I worked, took calls, played with Miles, ate dinner with Vanessa like nothing had changed. She talked about Brooke's wedding constantly, the venue, the caterer, the guest list. Preston's name came up more than once. "He's bringing a date," she mentioned casually one evening. "Some woman from the office." "Good for him," I said. She watched me for a moment, looking for something. Jealousy, maybe. Some sign that I cared. I gave her nothing. At night, after everyone was asleep, I worked on the exit protocol. First came the financial audit.
I pulled records from every account we shared: bank statements, credit cards, investment portfolios, 8 years of transactions, deposits, withdrawals. What I found made my stomach turn. Vanessa had been transferring money to an account I didn't recognize. Small amounts at first, a few hundred here and there. But over the past 2 years, the transfers had increased, thousands at a time. I traced the account. It belonged to Thornton Holdings, her father's company, the same company where Preston Holt was chief operations officer. I dug deeper, pulled up consulting contracts I'd signed over the years, corporate clients who needed cybersecurity work, big names, serious money. 3 of my largest contracts were subsidiaries of Thornton Holdings. I hadn't known. The company names were different, shell corporations, but when I traced the ownership structure, every trail led back to the same place. The Thorntons had been funneling business to me for years, not because they respected my work, because they needed my reputation to attract investors. My name on their cybersecurity audits made their company look legitimate, and Vanessa had been quietly siphoning money back to them. I was their cash cow, their downgrade who paid the bills. I documented everything: screenshots, bank records, corporate filings, uploaded copies to 3 separate cloud accounts, sent duplicates to Griffin's secure server. Then I started reconstructing the timeline. 7 years ago, the business trip to Portland. Vanessa went with her father to meet potential investors. Preston was there too, junior executive at the time, ambitious, hungry. She came back different, distant, wouldn't look me in the eyes. 2 weeks later, she announced she was pregnant. I remember the moment perfectly. We were sitting on the back porch. She handed me the positive test with tears in her eyes. "We're going to be parents," she whispered. I held her, cried with her, believed every word. 6 months later, Miles was born. Healthy, beautiful. Vanessa's eyes, Vanessa's smile. Nothing of mine. I'd been blind, willfully, desperately blind. But not anymore. The cameras had been running for a week now, mostly capturing nothing interesting. Vanessa working from home, making phone calls, watching television. But 2 nights ago, something changed. She'd been on the phone in the living room, pacing, voice low but animated. I couldn't hear the words clearly through the footage, but I could read her body language. Excited, nervous, anticipating something. She'd glanced towards the hallway, toward my office, making sure I wasn't there. Then she smiled, the kind of smile I hadn't seen directed at me in years. I saved the footage, tagged it for review. Something was coming. I could feel it. The wedding was 12 days away. Whatever they were planning, I'd know soon enough.
The footage that changed everything came on a Friday afternoon. Vanessa had taken the day off work, said she needed to handle some wedding errands for Brooke. I told her I had back-to-back client calls, would be locked in my office all day. She seemed relieved. I left the house at noon, drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks away, opened my laptop, connected to the camera feeds, and watched. For the first hour, nothing happened. Vanessa moved around the house, made coffee, scrolled through her phone, normal behavior. Then her phone rang. She answered immediately, walked to the living room, stood by the window where the camera had a clear angle. I couldn't hear the audio, but I could see her face, her expressions, the way her whole body language shifted. She was smiling, laughing, touching her hair the way she used to when we first started dating. The call lasted 20 minutes. When she hung up, she stood there for a moment, staring at her phone. Then she did something that made my blood freeze. She started talking, out loud, to herself, rehearsing. I zoomed in, watched her lips move, tried to piece together the words. "Preston, I've been thinking." She paused, shook her head, started again. "After the wedding, we should talk about..." Another pause, deep breath.
Declan doesn't suspect anything. He's too focused on work. Once the divorce goes through. My hand hovered over the keyboard, frozen. She kept going, practicing what she'd say, how she'd say it, the perfect words for the perfect moment. Miles deserves to know his real father. I closed the laptop, sat in that coffee shop for an hour, staring at nothing, processing what I'd witnessed. They had a plan, her and Preston, had probably been planning for months, maybe years. Wait for the right moment, push me out, replace me with the man who should have been there all along. The downgrade was always temporary, a placeholder until something better came along. I thought about confronting her, walking through that door and throwing the footage in her face, watching her scramble for excuses. But that would give her time to prepare, time to hide assets, time to spin the narrative. No, I'd keep watching, keep documenting, let her think I was oblivious until the very end. Would you have stayed to confront her, or would you have kept watching in silence? I drove home at 5 p.m., walked through the door with takeout from her favorite restaurant. "Hey," she said, barely looking up from her phone. "Good day?" "Productive," I replied. "Very productive." We ate dinner together. She talked about the wedding, the seating arrangements, how excited Brooke was. I smiled, nodded, played the role of the oblivious husband. 9 days to Napa. 9 days until I disappeared.
Monday morning, I called Griffin. "I have everything I need," I said. "Financial records, camera footage, the DNA results. It's time." "You're certain?" His voice was calm, professional. "Once we file these papers, there's no reversing course." "I've never been more certain of anything." "Then let's begin." We spent 2 hours on the phone, going through every document, every piece of evidence, building the case that would end my marriage and expose 8 years of fraud. But the divorce was only part of the plan. The real devastation came from the business side. Over the past 5 years, I'd signed consulting contracts with 14 different companies, security audits, network protection, threat assessment. Each contract paid well. Each contract came with a reputation boost. 3 of those companies were Thornton subsidiaries. 7 more had direct business relationships with Thornton Holdings. Together, those 10 contracts represented the bulk of my professional reputation in the Seattle market, and my reputation was the only thing keeping investors confident in Thornton Holdings. "I want out of all of them," I told Griffin. "Every contract with any connection to the Thorntons, terminated immediately." "That's a significant amount of income, Declan." "I don't need the income." Silence on the other end. "There's something you should know," I continued. "Before I met Vanessa, I sold a company, tech security patents, the kind of thing that protects banking systems from hackers." "How much?" "Enough that I never needed to work another day in my life." Griffin let out a low whistle. "And Vanessa doesn't know?" "Vanessa thinks I'm a freelance consultant who makes decent money. She has no idea what I'm actually worth." "Why hide it?" I stared out the window of my office, watching the rain streak down the glass. "Because I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I have." Failed that test, didn't I? "The terminations," Griffin said, getting back to business. "When do you want them effective?" "The day of the wedding, when the entire family is in Napa celebrating." He paused, "That's going to cause chaos. Those contracts are probably the only thing keeping Thornton Holdings stable. Without your name attached to their security audits, their investors will panic." "I know." "The company could collapse within weeks." "I know." Another pause. "You've thought about this." "For 3 weeks. Every angle, every consequence. They called me a downgrade, Griffin. They excluded me from their family while using my reputation to keep their empire afloat. They let me raise a child that wasn't mine while planning to replace me with his real father." I leaned back in my chair. "They wanted me gone? Fine, I'll be gone.
but I'm taking everything I contributed with me." Griffin was quiet for a long moment. "I'll have the termination letters ready by Thursday, dissolution paperwork filed Friday, everything hits simultaneously the day of the wedding. Perfect." I hung up, opened my laptop, pulled up the exit protocol document. Phase 2 complete. 6 days until Napa. 6 days until Vanessa left for her sister's wedding. 6 days until I vanished.
Thursday morning, 3 days before Brooke's wedding. Vanessa packed her suitcase while I made breakfast for Miles. She moved through the house with nervous energy, checking her phone constantly, double-checking her outfits. "The rehearsal dinner is tomorrow night," she said, zipping her bag. "I'll be back Sunday evening, Monday at the latest." "Take your time," I replied. "Miles and I will be fine." She paused, looked at me with something almost like guilt. "You're really okay with this?" I smiled, the same smile I'd been practicing for 3 weeks. "It's your sister's wedding. Family is important." She kissed my cheek, hugged Miles, told him to be good for Daddy. Then she was gone. I stood at the window, watched her car disappear around the corner, counted to 60. Then I went to work. The first call was to my mother in Oklahoma. We'd spoken 3 times this week. She knew everything, the DNA results, the fraud, the exit plan. "I'm leaving today," I said. "Can you take Miles for 2 weeks like we discussed?" "Already have his room ready," she replied. "Flight lands at 6? 6:15. I'll text you when we board." "Declan," her voice softened, "are you sure about all this?" I looked around the house I'd lived in for 6 years, the furniture Vanessa picked, the photos on the walls, the life I thought I was building. I've never been more sure of anything. The next few hours moved like clockwork. I pulled out the boxes I'd hidden in the garage, started packing. Not everything, just the essentials: documents, laptop, clothes, a few personal items. I'd already shipped 2 boxes to a P.O. box in Auckland 3 weeks ago: birth certificate, passport, financial records, the DNA report. Everything else stayed behind. At noon, I drove Miles to pick up lunch, his favorite burger place. We ate in the car, watching planes take off from the airport nearby. "Dad, why are we at the airport?" "We're going on an adventure, buddy. Remember how you always wanted to see Grandma's farm?" His eyes lit up. "We're going to Oklahoma?" "Just for a little while. You'll stay with Grandma while I handle some work stuff. Then I'll come get you." "What about Mom?" The question I'd been dreading. "Mom has some things to figure out, adult stuff. But she loves you very much. That won't ever change." He nodded slowly, processing. 6 years old was too young to understand, but old enough to sense something was wrong. I hugged him tight. "No matter what happens, I'm your dad, always. Nothing changes that." We boarded the flight at 4 o'clock, landed in Oklahoma City at 6:15. My mother was waiting at arrivals with tears in her eyes. She hugged Miles first, then me. "You look tired," she whispered. "I haven't slept in 3 weeks. You will now. Go do what you need to do. I've got him." I knelt down, looked Miles in the eyes. "I'll call you every night, I promise." "Love you, Dad. Love you too, kiddo." I watched them walk to the parking garage, watched until they disappeared. Then I booked a flight to Seattle, red-eye, landing at midnight. I had one more thing to do. The house was dark when I arrived, empty, silent. I walked through each room one last time: living room, kitchen, Miles's bedroom, the office where I'd discovered the truth. On the kitchen counter, I placed 3 items: my house keys, my wedding ring, and a sealed envelope containing copies of the DNA report, the financial records, and one sentence written in my handwriting: "You never had to explain. I understood." Then I walked out the front door, locked it behind me, and disappeared.
I learned what happened through Griffin. Saturday afternoon, the wedding went perfectly. Brooke and her husband exchanged vows in a vineyard overlooking the valley. Vanessa posted photos on social media. Her and Brooke, the bridesmaids, the reception. Preston was in several shots, standing close to Vanessa, laughing at something she said. Her parents beaming in the background. Everyone looked so happy. Sunday morning, the chaos began. Vanessa flew home, texted me from the airport, called twice, no answer. She arrived at the house around noon, found the keys, the ring, the envelope. According to Griffin, she'd called her parents immediately, hysterical, barely coherent. "He's gone. Declan's gone. He left a DNA report. He knows about Miles. He knows everything." Her father had rushed over from Napa, found his daughter sitting on the kitchen floor, reading the report over and over. "Where's Miles?" he demanded. "I don't know. Declan took him somewhere. He's not answering his phone." That's when the second wave hit. Monday morning, the termination letters arrived. Every contract I'd signed with Thornton subsidiaries canceled, effective immediately. Every business relationship that depended on my security audits dissolved. Griffin had timed it perfectly. The letters hit inboxes at 9 a.m. sharp. By 10 o'clock, investors were calling. By noon, the first withdrawal requests came through. By Tuesday, Thornton Holdings was hemorrhaging money. Vanessa's father tried to reach me, called my phone, emailed my work address, even hired a private investigator. Nothing. I'd vanished completely. Wednesday brought the final blow. A courier arrived at the Thornton family home, legal documents, formal notice that I was filing for divorce based on paternity fraud, demanding full return of all funds transferred to Thornton Holdings without my knowledge. 8 years of siphoned money, documented, itemized, legally recoverable. The lawsuit named Vanessa, her father, and Preston Holt. Have you ever watched someone lose everything they took for granted? Drop a comment. I want to know. Griffin called me that afternoon. I was already in New Zealand by then, sitting in an Auckland hotel room watching the sun set over the harbor. "They're panicking," he said. "Vanessa's attorney wants to negotiate." No negotiations. "Declan, she's offering everything. Joint custody, property split, full admission of the affair." "Miles isn't my biological son. I have no custody to negotiate. Preston Holt can negotiate with her." Silence. "She's claiming you knew, that you accepted Miles as yours regardless." "I have dated evidence proving I discovered the truth 4 weeks ago. She has no case." More silence. "The business side is worse," Griffin continued. "Thornton Holdings filed for bankruptcy protection this morning. Investors pulled out. Banks are calling in loans. Preston Holt resigned as COO. Good. She's desperate, Declan. Her entire family is collapsing." I stood at the window, looked out at the city lights reflected on the water. "They called me a downgrade, excluded me from their family, used my reputation to prop up their failing company, let me raise a child that wasn't mine while planning to replace me?" I took a breath. "They wanted me gone. I'm gone, but I took everything I built with me. What do you want as a settlement?" Divorce finalized. Public acknowledgement of the paternity fraud in the decree. Preston Holt acknowledges paternity and pays child support backdated to birth, and a trust fund for Miles. I'll fund it myself. "You're setting up a trust for a child who isn't yours?" "He's 6 years old. None of this is his fault. He deserves stability." Griffin was quiet for a long moment. "You're a better man than they deserved." "I know." 18 months later, I stood on the deck of my house overlooking Piha Beach, watching the waves crash against black sand. New Zealand had given me something I didn't know I was missing. Space, silence, the chance to rebuild without ghosts following me. I'd bought the house 6 months after arriving. Modern design, floor-to-ceiling windows, nothing like the Seattle townhouse I'd left behind. The security consulting firm I'd started was thriving. Government contracts, corporate clients across the Pacific, a team of 12 people who respected my expertise without questioning my past. But the best part of my new life was standing in the kitchen making coffee. Dr. Simone Hartley, 36 years old, marine biologist at the University of Auckland. Sharp mind, warm heart, zero tolerance for games or manipulation. We'd met at a conference 8 months ago. She was presenting research on ocean conservation technology. I was consulting on cybersecurity for research vessels. She asked intelligent questions. I gave honest answers. By the end of the conference, we'd exchanged numbers. 3 months later, we were dating seriously. 4 months after that, she moved in. She knew everything. The DNA test, the paternity fraud, the exit, the hidden wealth I'd never told Vanessa about. I told her on our 4th date. Expected judgment, maybe fear. Instead, she'd looked at me calmly and said, "You did what you had to do. Anyone with integrity would have done the same." That's when I knew she was different. Last month, she told me she was pregnant. We'd been careful, but sometimes life has other plans. "We're keeping it," she said, not a question. I pulled her close, held her tight, felt something I hadn't felt in years. Joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. "We're keeping it," I agreed. Have you ever found someone who loved you for exactly who you are, not who they wanted you to be? The settlement finalized 3 months ago. Griffin handled everything. Divorce granted, paternity fraud acknowledged in the official decree, Preston Holt publicly recognized as Miles' biological father, child support backdated to birth. Thornton Holdings dissolved completely. Her father lost everything. Last I heard, he was working as a consultant for a competitor. The irony wasn't lost on me. Preston Holt moved to a smaller company in another state. His reputation never recovered. And Vanessa, she remarried last year. Some insurance agent she met at a support group. They moved to a different city, started over. I didn't care. The trust fund for Miles was set up and growing. He'd have access at 25, enough to start any life he wanted. He called me every week, video chats on Sunday afternoons. My mother had permanent custody now. Vanessa got supervised visits once a month. "Dad, when can I visit you?" he asked last Sunday. "Soon, buddy. Maybe this summer. The beaches here are incredible." "Is Simone there? I want to say hi." I handed the phone to Simone, watched her make funny faces at the camera, heard Miles laugh. He wasn't mine by blood, but 6 years of bedtime stories don't disappear because of a DNA test. I'd always be his dad, always show up, always answer when he called. That's what real fathers do. The sun was setting now, orange and purple streaking across the sky. Simone came out to the deck with 2 cups of tea, sat beside me. "Thinking about the past?" she asked. "Thinking about how far I've come." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "No regrets?" I thought about it, really thought. Not one.
2 years and 4 months after I left Seattle, I became a New Zealand citizen. The ceremony was small, quiet, dignified. Simone stood beside me, holding our 3-month-old daughter, Mila. The judge smiled as I took the oath. "Welcome to New Zealand, Mr. Perry." I signed the paperwork, received my certificate, shook hands with officials who didn't know my story and didn't need to. Outside the courthouse, Simone kissed me. "How do you feel?" "Complete." We drove home to Piha Beach.
Mila slept the entire way, bundled in her car seat. Simone hummed softly to the radio. I thought about everything that had led me here. One conversation, one word, one decision to stop accepting less than I deserved. That evening, after dinner, I sat on the deck watching the stars appear over the ocean. Simone was inside putting Mila to bed. The house was quiet, peaceful. My phone buzzed. Email notification. Unknown sender, but the preview showed enough. Declan, I know you probably won't read this, but I needed to try. Vanessa. I stared at the notification for a long moment, considered deleting it unread, but something made me open it. Declan, I know you probably won't read this, but I needed to try. I heard you became a citizen. Congratulations. I know what that means. You're never coming back, and I understand why. I won't apologize again. I've said sorry 1,000 times, and it never feels adequate. But I wanted you to know that Miles talks about you constantly. You're still his dad in every way that matters. Thank you for the trust fund. Thank you for the weekly calls. Thank you for not abandoning me even after you learned the truth. You're a better person than I ever deserved. Preston and I don't speak anymore. He pays child support but barely visits. Miles doesn't ask about him. He asks about you. I hope you're happy. I hope New Zealand gives you everything you couldn't find here. And I hope someday, somehow, the universe gives you back all the good you put into the world. You earned it. Vanessa. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger, not out of spite, out of completion. Vanessa was part of a life I'd left behind, a life built on lies, maintained through deception, destroyed by truth. This life, the ocean, the stars, Simone, Mila, the freedom to choose my own path, this was real. Simone came outside, sat beside me, leaned her head on my shoulder. Everything okay? Everything's perfect. She didn't ask about the phone, didn't need to. She trusted me completely, and I trusted her. That was the difference. Miles called while you were in the shower earlier, she said. He wants to know if he can come for Christmas this year instead of summer. Says he wants to see snow in July. I laughed. Tell him yes, we'll make it happen. He also asked if Mila is crawling yet. Not yet, but soon. Simone smiled, squeezed my hand. You're a good father, Declan, to both of them. I looked out at the ocean, the waves crashing against the black sand, the moon rising over the water. 8 years ago, I married a woman who saw me as a stepping stone, a placeholder, a downgrade from the man she really wanted. I gave her everything, my time, my money, my love, my trust. She gave me lies. But she also gave me the push I needed to leave, to rebuild, to find someone who loved me for exactly who I am. The Thorntons wanted me gone, so I left. I took my reputation, my wealth, my dignity, and I built something better. The man they labeled a downgrade upgraded himself completely. I raised my tea to the stars, to the journey, to the single word that changed everything. Understood, I whispered. Then I went inside, kissed my daughter goodnight, held the woman who chose me, and closed the door on the past forever. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that discovering the truth felt worse than the lie itself?